Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Male Perspective Podcast, Week 2. I am Dominic, and I am 28 years old.
And I'm Justin. I'm 33 years old.
And we are brothers in life and in business. We own an essential oil company called Organic.com. We also own multiple homes throughout the Midwest. I myself am a published author on a book regarding growth and mental health called The Journey Sunrise. And we're just two young men on a mission of self-growth with a passion for helping others along their journey through life. Our podcast will not be edited. Everything we say will remain in the podcast. And this week, we are talking about attraction. Now, we generally choose our topics based on whatever we feel that week. This week, we just got back from a vacation in D.C. with a couple friends of ours. And D.C. is quite the city. Filled with young professionals, so of course, we went out a lot, and we had a lot of discussions amongst us about attraction. So we thought it would be a great time to touch on this topic. We're gonna cover just a few points of that we think are the most important with attraction, mainly being masculine and feminine energy. We think that is probably the most important thing when it comes to attraction. What we can do to make ourselves more attractive, and then I wanted to touch on a study I saw called the Sexual Markets Value Study, which talked about the different points in a man and a woman's life and how our sexual attraction varies. So I'm gonna let my brother take over and talk about the different topics we're gonna hit on today.
So this week, divulging into the male perspective on attraction, the first thing we want to really divulge and touch on, which, like you said, me and a couple of our buddies really talked about, that was the main topic this weekend, was attraction, just looking around how you're viewed, how you view others, and that really brought us into the masculine and feminine energy topic, because both men and women have masculine energy, but man is really the one that has to direct his energy the most, because he is ultimately the leader, and ultimately it's kind of a dance, I put it. It's like the feminine energy and the masculine energy, when they come together, they do a beautiful dance and they balance each other out. So one's not better than the other, one's not bigger than the other. They definitely play off of each other. But
Absolutely.
Getting back to the topic of the masculine energy, basically, I want to explain what it is. Like, masculine energy for men is what makes you a man, and what makes you direct, what makes you logical, what makes you a problem solver. It's what you need, basically, to get to where you need to get to in life. This is what our ancestors used, back in the caveman days to survive. You had to have to know how to make a fire, how to go out and kill animals and bring them back, to feed the family. So, a lot of that's not needed today because of how technology is, and how basically men and women can do the same things, but that does not excuse the fact that masculine and feminine energy still exists. Attraction is still the same, and those rules still apply.
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter how much money you make, or a lot of different other factors that like we talked about. Men think, for instance, like appearance. That was one of the big things we talked about.
Right.
If you're dressed a certain way, if you are wearing these type of shoes, and so many men put so much into their appearance, but they don't really put a lot of time into their energy.
Right.
And the energy is what you feel when you walk into the room. Women pick up on it, and that's what a lot of men don't understand, is our women are very intuitive, so they're gonna pick up on your energy, no matter how you're dressed.
That was one of the biggest things, like I said, we wanted to talk about today. And so I think the biggest thing to discuss is what energy is, and then we can kind of discuss the different types of energy, like I said, the masculine and the feminine energy, why we need a balance of both, and why we think one is lacking, especially in today's culture. So the first thing we want to talk about is what energy is. So what does energy mean to you, and then I'll give my take on it.
The energy to me just means what people feel when they're around you. So like I said, when you walk into the room, do people get positive vibes, or do people feel negative vibes about you? Do people feel like they want to work with you at work? Do people kind of shy away from you? Or are you the go-to at work? Do people want to come to you with their problems, or do people shy away from you because you are the problem in some people's eyes?
I think we all kind of have that. Like, we all have that person that walks in the room is like, I don't know about that person. He's kind of
Exactly.
creepy or whatever words people use. Or you got that person that walks in the room and, like you said, you feel better, you feel more comfortable with them, you feel a little happier, whatever it is. And I think we all have an energy and a vibe about us. Oftentimes we don't know it. Sometimes we do, but most people I think don't know it. Most people aren't understanding the very nonverbal cues they're giving. Not only with your appearance, not just in the type of work you've done for yourself. If you haven't done a lot of self work, you don't really know what your energy is saying. And part of what we're going to talk about is how to do that self work so that we can cue in on what our energy is saying to the opposite sex. So this is the Male Perspective Podcast, so we're talking mostly to the men here, but we're going to be able to hone in and talk about what energy we're sending when we walk in the room, what energy we're sending when we interact with women.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very important. And when we talk about energy, I think it's important to say that when we say masculine and feminine, it doesn't necessarily mean like the genders, right? Like women can have masculine energy, and a lot of them do.
Very much so. Especially in today's society.
Yeah.
I mean, you have so many women that in the workforce now that
Right.
are doing way more than men and,
Yeah.
and advancing way faster than men.
Absolutely.
College
and women,
graduates and
yeah,
everything.
absolutely. And women being single moms, having
Yeah.
to play both mom and dad, I think seeing single moms is way more prevalent than seeing single dads.
Definitely, most definitely.
So the mom is playing that mom and dad role. Even just like this past Father's Day, it was a bunch of memes that were talking about how women say Happy Father's Day even to themselves.
Exactly.
So it's not a matter of gender thing. A lot of women can have masculine energy. A lot of men have feminine energy.
Exactly.
Right? And that's what we're going to talk about, is to identify the energy that we have and to see if that is conducive to attraction. Because I think that's the biggest thing when it comes to attraction is the energy that we're sending. So we're going to talk about first masculine energy and what that means. So some of the words we just happen to write down: direct, logical, knowing what you want, having goals, leading, standards, and purpose.
And that's the biggest part at the end, like you said, the purpose. A man needs to understand, to have the masculine energy that you need for attraction, the first thing is having a purpose.
Absolutely.
Because to attract the opposite sex, you need to know where you're going. You need to know what you want, because you can't identify that,
Right.
and you can't even express that or even get to that point with the opposite sex if you don't know your purpose.
Absolutely.
And it's like an umbrella. Your purpose is at the top, and everything else falls under it. You know.
Absolutely.
So whatever it is that you want to do outside of your purpose, that should take second tier to your purpose. But having that purpose makes you a rock in a storm. Like you're
Absolutely.
not moving, you're not shifting. So when you walk in the room, you should walk in the room with a purpose.
Yeah.
I'm such and such, and I'm here for this purpose. And it could be at work, it could be, at home, it could be anything. You need the purpose. If you're at home and you're a husband or whatever, what is your purpose, and how's the best way you can handle that?
Yeah, I definitely think women enjoy a man that has something that woman can believe in. She has to believe in you. She has to buy into you. And again, we're going to talk about attraction from a more relationship standpoint, I think, and more of a something, building something real.
Mm-hmm.
Not just necessarily attraction like at a club or something like that. But anyway, having that purpose, like you said, makes you a rock. So there's certain things you're not going to compromise. And one of the words we actually ended up writing down is standards.
Mm-hmm.
As men, we have to have standards and something that we're not going to shake on. We're not going to, and having that gives women something to buy into.
Exactly.
I think women naturally crave security from the man, which is why we look at money as such a big thing.
Exactly.
Well, all money really is security.
Pretty much.
If sometimes you can get a woman to buy into your purpose, and it's way more powerful than money.
Oh yeah, definitely. Women definitely buy more into ambition than
Right.
they buy into, well, my bank account says this, because
Right.
the person with the ambition is going to be able to get that bank account 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times over because they have a purpose.
Yeah,
You know.
and they believe in that, and you believe in that, and that's
Exactly.
part of the masculine energy. So I think what we've learned along our journey is that when we were younger, we didn't really have a purpose, but we were in relationships,
Exactly.
right? And so with that, I don't think the women ever really bought into. Well, I think a lot of what I see, the women aren't buying into the man. They don't really believe in him.
Exactly.
Like, yeah, it's somebody there. We click. It's cool, but I don't really believe in him
Exactly.
long term.
And I think with the masculine too, you have to understand if you don't believe in your masculine energy, then a woman is never going to buy into your masculine energy.
Right.
Like you have to really believe that you're doing the things that you can do as a man for your purpose. Otherwise, a woman can't even support that.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
If you don't know where
100%.
you're going, which another thing we wrote down was leading. So if you don't know where you're going, how is a woman gonna want to follow you?
Exactly.
And that's a big part of masculine energy. A lot of people I know that are in relationships and things I see, the man doesn't have a purpose, and they're definitely not leading. I think in today's culture, it doesn't really teach us to do that anymore.
No, it doesn't.
It's more of a 50-50 culture,
Mm-hmm.
which is cool. I have nothing against 50-50, but at the end of the day, we as men have to be the head, the leader, and that is going to build more attraction. That's going to build more bond. Like you said, when you are mingling, talking to women, if you have a purpose, something they can believe in, something they can get behind, that is the most attractive thing to them. I've had so many women tell me that the sexiest thing about a man is him having goals, him being driven, him having purpose.
Yeah.
That leads to security,
Exactly.
right? And that is a huge part of masculine energy, like I said, that I don't really see much today. A lot of men don't have that purpose. And so I think one of the things that we can do as men is try to find that purpose. Explore different things. Find something that's bigger than you that you believe in, that you're not willing to compromise for. Lock into that, and you'll be surprised how your energy changes and
Exactly.
how women are more drawn to you because of that.
And you'll be surprised at too how that feminine energy is very supportive. Because when you show up and you're the masculine man, it's easy for the woman to show up and be that support system.
Absolutely.
To support your dream.
Absolutely.
And to push you to higher heights. You know.
Absolutely.
It's just it's really a compliment. Like the feminine energy is a compliment to the masculine.
Right.
When they're intertwined and working together.
Absolutely. And that, like you said, it's a yin and yang. Everything in nature is a yin and yang, including masculine and feminine energy. A few of the other, like I said, other things we wrote down was being direct. And we talked about that a lot in DC, of seeing what you want and going to get it.
Exactly. You always have to be direct as a man. And that's not, we were talking about women and attraction, but attraction to anything though, when we talk about that, a job,
Absolutely.
opportunity,
Absolutely.
Something that you've been wanting to really do, to be direct and go do that.
As a man.
As a man, that's how you really get in tune with your masculine energy.
Mm-hmm.
You can't, like I tell people, you can't shy away from the tension. There's always going to be tension.
Yep.
Life is tension,
Yep.
but that's growth.
Yep.
And when a woman sees the tension and you see the tension, it's like you have to step into that masculine and handle the tension.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to test you. Women always test you
Oh, yes,
non-verbally.
Yes, they
And
do.
it's really subconscious. It's not even on purpose.
Right.
It's like, okay, well, if you say you're this, show me.
Well, it goes back to the security thing. So they have to be sure that you are who you say you are,
Exactly.
or you are who they want you to be.
Exactly.
And so, yeah, you're definitely going to get tested a lot. Especially we talk about relationships. A lot of men I talk to can't. What is she doing? She doing? I said, bro, she's just testing you.
Exactly.
And the fact that you're folding, not leading, you're
Exactly.
failing that test.
Exactly.
But that all comes back to the purpose part of having something that you're not going to compromise with, so that you have to have somewhere to go, a destination for her to get behind you and push you to,
Mm-hmm.
and you can do the same for her, but either way, you have to have these qualities to be able to lead
Exactly.
in any facet. And then we also talk about being logical. That's not to say that we have to be 100% logical, right? We talk about the yin and yang, male feminine energy, but we also as men, I think, can't let emotions run us.
Oh no, I think that's the thing. Once you get in tune with your masculine, it makes it easier to kind of understand your feminine energy. So there's a time to be emotional.
Absolutely.
When you're at home with your lady and you're talking about something,
Yeah.
there's a time for that.
Yeah.
But just going around being emotional in any situation and not being a rock and being masculine, that's not good for your energy and it's not good for your progression.
It's not good for leadership either.
Yeah.
We keep going back to this leadership, and being an emotional leader
Exactly.
sounds terrible.
It does. It does. I mean, the emotion, I mean, even with passion, I'm a very passionate person.
Yeah.
And there's some emotion there, but you have to learn to control it,
harness it,
and harness
absolutely,
it, and bring it out when it's needed,
yeah,
and pull back when it's not.
Yeah, we wouldn't want a hothead with the nuclear codes
Exactly.
running the country. You know what I mean? You never know. Something can pop up at any time. A good leader, like you said, knows when to bring out their emotions. And I think we were watching a video on the way to DC that talked about vulnerability, and that was really powerful to hear that there is a lot of power in being vulnerable as men, and that is part of once you get comfortable with your masculine energy, that you're able to be vulnerable, and that says a lot too, because that's a big part of leadership as well.
Yeah, and that kind of takes us into our next topic in terms of what can we do as men to make ourselves more attractive, you know, and the confidence, the self-work is the first step, you know, like I watch a lot of self-help videos.
Absolutely.
and a lot of things pertaining to helping me understand what I need to do to become more centered in my energy. And I tell a lot of guys, like, working out, anything that helps you center your body or helps you focus is a good stepping stone and a good tool to help you step into your masculine and really understand your purpose, you know?
Discipline.
Discipline.
I think discipline
Definitely
has a lot to do with anything. It's especially, like you said, working out, diet. We've been vegetarian. I've been vegetarian for a little over 2 years, I believe. You were going on like a year or so.
It's been a year and some change.
So it definitely takes a lot of discipline, and in that discipline, once again, goes back to good leadership.
Exactly.
A good leader can be disciplined. So now that we've talked about masculine energy, let's talk about feminine energy and how. Let's talk about, and more from the perspective of men that have the feminine or have a disbalance of feminine energy. What some of the things we wrote down with that were emotional, surrender, and insecure. So touch on a few of those topics.
I think, like, with the feminine energy, it's more so just as a man understanding what type of feminine energy you're giving off and understanding where areas in your life you need to work on that. So, you know, if you're very emotional, or if certain things make you feel fearful or insecure, you know, I talk about fear a lot because
it's a big one.
When fear threatens your masculine energy, that's usually the areas in life that you need to work on.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? So if you're scared to talk to girls, you should go talk to girls. If you're scared to be around people or public speaking, you should take some public speaking classes or try to talk talk around people more. Whatever it is that you fear, like I said earlier, step into the tension.
Yep.
Get used to it, because in being a leader, these are things that are going to come up.
Yeah.
You don't want to shy away from these things, and that's you starting to recognize, okay, I have feminine energy in these areas, and this is where I need to work. And like for myself, when I was growing up, like, public speaking was a big thing for me. Like, you know, even me starting this podcast was huge because I used to be scared to talk in front of people in high school. You know, I felt like I hated to be that kid when the teacher would call you to the front of the class to read something, or you know what I'm saying? And they usually call the people that don't do it all the time. So I'm always getting called. So I'm like, oh, but working on that, like I said, working out, just these things have really helped me harness my masculine energy, because growing up, my dad showed me a lot of things, but then there were a lot of things that I think my dad didn't really understand because he didn't really do the work on the the weaknesses is what I'm looking for, trying to say, the weaknesses that we have in that energy. So
yeah, I definitely think going back to your point on fear, fear is an emotion, right? And part of the feminine energy is having a disbalance of like you're too emotional. So I think if you're fearful, if you're scared, then it's hard to find a purpose when you're living in a state of fear.
Exactly.
And a lot of people I know are living in a state of fear, whether it's fear of being alone, like you said, fear of talking to women that you find actually attractive, right? Fear of really going for that job you want to go for, fear of starting that business. I mean, there's so many different fears that we face, obviously, just as human beings, but part of being a good leader, part of the masculine energy is beginning to conquer those fears. Like you said, stepping into the tension and getting used to that.
Get used to it.
Once you can begin to conquer some of those fears, you'll really unlock different parts of you that you maybe didn't know existed.
Mm-hmm.
You'll unlock different dreams, different goals. You'll unlock that confidence that you can do it. And that was a big thing for me. Like, you know, obviously we haven't worked in, what, 2-3 years now?
It's been 3 years.
We haven't punched the clock. And stepping out from that environment was difficult because I was fearful. But once I stepped out a little bit, I'm like, okay, it's not too bad out here, is when I finally really stepped out and conquered that fear, and look what it's turned into.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a part of being the masculine energy is conquering those fears, and everybody loves somebody that isn't afraid to put themselves out there. Everybody loves a person that's not afraid to start their business, not afraid to leave that job. I mean, we still meet people that we used to work with that are like, you know, I can't believe you guys did it, this and that, and just so happy and so proud of it, because everyone, you know, that's attractive, you know, people that aren't afraid to step out on that. And I think a lot of the disbalance with men and the feminine energy, they're just scared. Like you said, scared to do something, scared to be alone, scared for a lot of different reasons. But you have to start to conquer, like you said, those fears to become a good leader, which will give you more masculine energy, more of that balance, and it'll really attract what you want in life, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Another part of the feminine energy was surrender. And, you know, we see a lot of that, especially in relationships, jobs.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
the fact that, and I think, too, is really the fact of not feeling like your value is worth X amount, so you surrender, and what you do is you cheat yourself. You know, you don't feel like you're worth X amount, so you'll say, I'll take whatever. You know, we've done that in every avenue of our life, whether relationships, whether jobs. You know you deserve that raise, but you're not gonna get it because you're not gonna really fight for it, because you don't feel like you deserve it.
That is not masculine at all.
Yeah,
that's a very fearful, feminine energy quality of. Insecure is one of the things we put down. It's a very insecure thing, and I definitely think in finding that confidence and conquering those fears, you'll begin to realize, like you said, your worth. And that was one of the things we realized working. Like, we're worth way more than
exactly.
We want more respect.
Yeah.
You know, we want to be compensated more. We're more creative. We're harder working. You know, when you feel smarter than your supervisors.
Yeah, I mean, you just and the thing
it's
is,
time to make a change.
And the thing is, you just have to, with the masculine energy, you have to own it.
Yeah,
you know,
that's it.
So whatever it is that you want, you have to own that. You know.
Yeah.
So if you want that job or start that business, you have to own that energy, because guess what? You're gonna have bumps in the road.
Absolutely.
But that masculine energy, you're gonna problem solve. You're gonna figure it out. You're gonna make it happen. You know, no matter what.
Absolutely. So. And the last point from the feminine energy is insecurity. I think that when I say insecure, I think women naturally, like I said earlier, want security from a male counterpart, and I think a lot of men have adopted that same insecurity. Oh yeah. Which is why they demand half. Exactly. Which is why they demand certain things out of their woman. Which is why they're scared, you know, to be alone. Exactly. Which is why they're scared to leave that, you know, to start that business. Which it's all intertwined. Everything we're talking about is intertwined. But that's part of the feminine energy, and a lot of men have that, which leads to a lack of attraction, which leads to a lack of interest from the opposite sex, from men. Insecurity is a big one. Mm-hmm. It's definitely a big one. So, like we touched on a little bit earlier, what we can do to make ourselves more attractive, and I definitely think self-work is a huge part of it, like you were talking about. And then lastly, the sexual market value study I found, which was very interesting. I'm not sure what website it was, otherwise I would credit them. But if you look up sexual market value study, SMV study, it should come up if you Google it. But it was very interesting on how men and our overall attractiveness as we get older, we tend to think it slumps, right? But they were saying that from the time we're 18 to the time we're 33, which is our peak sexual value, I'll explain why in a second. But from the time we're 18 to 33, our sexual value continues to rise. And this goes back to what you said earlier about how people think how you dress is such a big deal. Mm-hmm. Us as men, you know, we want the freshest kicks and the name brand and the belt buckle showing and, you know, the chains on and all that stuff. But it's not about that. If you read the study, it talks about the things that women are looking for, and that's more, again, security, wisdom, that you have more experiences. Usually you're more financially stable by the time you're 33. And it just talked about how those are the things that they really look for. So 33 is kind of our peak as far as those things go. And so they were saying our sexual value continues to rise through our 20s. And I think it's important to continue to build on those things, wisdom, experience, and obviously financially, just from a security standpoint, you know, you want to be stable. Not that money is everything, but you want to be stable. And it's not as much as about how you look or how you dress as much as it is about these other qualities that are important to women. Do you want to touch on the study at all?
I think the study is very interesting because I think it just shows, like, as you progress and as you tap into that masculine energy,
Right.
And that's what the masculine energy really is. It's just progression,
Right.
you know. And as you tap more into your progression, things should get better for you. But like I said, if you're not stepping into that, if you're not welcoming those challenges, you never get a chance to test your masculine energy. And like, even going back to what you're saying, the dress thing, like, I always look at how was it done before, you know, and I look at the ancestors or look at, you know, people before us. There were no, you know, Jordans, there was no
Right.
Louis, there was no Gucci, there was no designer.
Exactly.
So that definitely is not a factor when it comes to attraction, you know,
Right.
and you have to really get in tune with yourself and begin to understand it's your energy and it's what you give off. It's not your appearance. It's not, that's after the fact.
Absolutely.
I mean, you know, physical appearance is part of our attraction, but
Right.
we really
Definitely.
want to get into the energy that you're giving before the person even sees you.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
That's a big. I think that's the biggest part of it. Obviously, the physical part doesn't hurt, but I think that a lot of men focus on the physical to
overcompensate.
for the other stuff that we're talking
Yeah.
about, and you get exposed pretty quickly,
Exactly.
and you really don't have the success you want.
Exactly.
So, if you do focus on the physical and you get a very attractive woman, usually it doesn't lead to anything that you want. I mean, unless you just want sex, obviously. But if anything more than that's not going to lead to that. She's not going to buy into you.
Exactly.
She's not going to buy into you based off of Jordans
Exactly.
and your belt buckle.
And you, like what you're talking about, we're talking about building bonds.
Exactly.
That's what the masculine and feminine energy is about, is building bonds. And like I said, it's deeper than sex, deeper, you know, it just goes with the opposite sex, period.
Right.
So like even being around women, you know, I have some friends of mine that they don't really like to be around a lot of women too often, and they're not really in tune with their energy.
Right.
So they don't really understand what's going on, you know.
Right.
But that's where this work comes in, and that's where you get to a place where it's like it could be a room full of women, and you feel comfortable because you're in your masculine. They're gonna be women.
Yeah.
Women are gonna be feminine,
Right.
and that's expected.
Yeah.
You're supposed to show up and be the masculine though, no matter what.
Absolutely. You're the rock in that, like I
Yeah.
said. And I think it's important that we just not overcompensate and focus on what really is important in attraction and what really builds those bonds. So that was the male perspective on attraction. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at the Male Perspective Podcast, YouTube at the Male Perspective Podcast, and Facebook at the Male Perspective Podcast to keep up with all of our videos, all of our releases, any information, and comment on this video. If you have any opinions, we would definitely want to hear them. Comment on any topics you want to hear as well. And we're gonna upload every Tuesday. So I think I said Monday night last week.
Monday. We shoot on Monday.
Shoot on Monday.
Then we have to, you know, load it and all that type of stuff on Tuesday.
Absolutely. So every Tuesday, look for the Male Perspective Podcast every week. And you got anything else to add?
No, I just should appreciate the listeners, and we're just gonna keep cranking out topics based on our life, and we're always gonna give you the raw male perspective.
Absolutely.
When you listen. So we look forward to hearing from you next week.
Absolutely. That was the Male Perspective on attraction.
I miss my workout, but it worked out. Now I'm missing work now, but it worked out.